music you're hearing in today's service is music that David loved listening to. And like Greenbaum's song proclaims, we are each going to the Spirit in the sky. We're given that promise in the Bible. If we live to the Lord. If we die to the Lord. So then, whether we live or die, we belong to the Lord. For to this end Christ died and lived again, that he might be Lord both of the dead and of the living. With this promise in our hearts, I welcome each of you, family and friends, to this time of remembering David. We gather to bid David farewell, for in community we share our sense of loss, but we also draw strength from each other. We are strengthened by the stories we tell and the memories we recall and the music that touches our hearts. Our first storyteller is Jamie.
So I'll have to move the mic up and stand a little closer. It's an honor to be here today. It's certainly not where we all want to be, for sure. But I think David needs a good send-off, so I've taken it upon myself to try and condense it into a few minutes. I'll forgive. They probably have room up with that door to put the little candy cane hook out to get me, but David was my brother-in-law, and I've known him since Lisa and I first got together in 1994, which a long time. A lot of things have happened, and a lot of jokes have been told, a lot of jokes have been played. But first thing I want to say, David was committed to his family. And whether that's Heather, the boys, Julie, Aaron, he was there for them. And not only them, he was there for Lisa, for Elaine, for Jean and Sterling. And one of we never had a lot of deep talks, but one of the things that he told me, which was a bit of a warning maybe, or a little bit of advice, Jean and Sterling were the boss, and we did whatever was required when Jean and Sterling spoke. And he did that, and that was true. And I think that was one of the reasons, I guess probably why I'm still here. David had many great careers and great loves. One was helping people, and he had been injured in an accident, and he wasn't able to help out anymore with David worked out at the hospital. His kindness and patience for people who are a little bit different. And we have some of those in our own family, including mine. So his ability to see the good in everyone, to be incredibly kind and patient. I know when our kids would be around the house when we were little, many other brothers-in-law might say, geez, make those kids quiet down. Not this guy. Because he was a kid at heart. And he was a kid until the end. So, but family was important to him, and he didn't take that lightly. So as he moved on in his career, he was fortunate enough to meet Donald and Sylvia Mattson, who were like parents to him. And he loved that, and they loved him. And it was so nice last night to hear them say, not only did they enjoy having him there, but they loved having him there. And it was a pleasure. And David, as we all know, David's sense of humor sometimes, sometimes it was an acquired taste, but they loved him. And I'll tell you what, that meant a lot to him. And not only being at their tree farm, but Sean and I would drive over to school some days, and we'd come across the back road to out back in Greenville, and we'd say, how nice it is that they have this tree farm together, and that Heather and David and the kids are able to work there. We didn't know that it was going to be this short, but just because family's been important to both of them, and we've always, it's been ingrained into us. Humility too, certainly, because neither family has ever been much to talk about themselves. But David would share his affection for you in very subtle ways. I would have never ever probably said to him that I loved him or cared for him. Obviously, he knew that I did. And he was definitely, I don't recall ever hearing him say it to me. But he would tell you in subtle ways, never directly. My brother and I had the chance to go out shooting rifles with him a week and a bit ago. And one of the ways where I think Jody was my twin, was aware that David would, his subtle way of telling you, we were talking about maple syrup and how much he still wanted to get some concrete slabs and build up a proper place to boil off the syrup. But he said, and Jody would have asked him, so you make maple syrup? Yeah, and you get some if I like it. So if you got some, I like it. If you don't, well, you have work to do. So I was thinking to myself, that jar in the fridge clearly was probably meant for Lisa, but I do use it. But he was incredibly authentic. He didn't put on any airs at all. And for some people, as with his sense of humor, some people got it and some people didn't. But he never, ever pretended to be something that he wasn't. He never pretended to be an expert on anything. He was constantly learning. Always on YouTube or somewhere. He would have these little facts that you would say. And I remember sitting around the table saying, where in the world would he get this stuff? But he was someone who learned throughout his whole life. And it's something really to be proud of for all the family and the kids, that he was never big feeling enough to realize that he couldn't learn something. So, and I think with the tree farm, and I might be reading more into it than there is. I usually do that. But the tree farm, and having been with Donald and Sylvia, and the planting of the trees, the tending of them each year, the trimming and the, shaping them to be what you wanted them to be, that's like family itself. It takes work. And I think he was always willing to do that work. So it's, it was always nice that he would share his knowledge. Sometimes it'd be silly stuff, obviously. It'd be somewhat silly from out in left field. Golf, I went golfing with him a few times. The only reason why I only went a few times, it was embarrassing how much better he was than me. But he would never ever, he was not one of these people that would say, pick it up some because you're, and he would share that ability and the patience. So yeah, we're gonna miss him. And again, his patience for people who maybe move at a little different pace. My own son, right? David had incredible patience for people, including me as a brother-in-law. So to the boys, I know I was talking to Lisa this morning about it. They came into this family as the brothers that the girls never had, Aaron and Lisa. And bringing a different perspective to the family, very quiet family, very duty-filled family. But you brought in wrestling in the living room floor, Nintendo marathons, and probably the only gun maybe that would have ever been in the house was the Nintendo gun. But they love you very much, and you will always be family to them. And then we got to meet Julie and Bradley, and his family came together, and that was wonderful over the last. It's funny how many years it's been since before COVID. Obviously, the last time I met Julie at the campground was before COVID, but he prepared you all well. And you will, I think the thing that I always say to people when they lose someone, we've lost many ourselves, they never go too far away. They'll always be close. When something good happens, when that song comes on, you'll remember him. You know that he's in a better place. We wish we would have had more time with him. But I was very grateful to his brother-in-law. Thank you.
Another favorite piece of David's is In Dreams by Roy Orbison. have a few readings for today, and granddaughter Shelby is going to offer the first reading, and then sister-in-law Elaine will be the second, so they're going to come up together.
Ricky David was my biggest supporter throughout my whole life with sports, school, and all my different relationships with friends, family, anything, extended family. He was always there for me, whether I needed to drive somewhere or if I just wanted ice cream. And he would always say, COD, call on David. My life without him will be very different, but all I can do is remember the good times and the memories I have of him. All the adventures and stories we had together, and a small quote from Dr. Seuss. Sometimes you will never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory.
When I must leave you. When I must leave you for a little while, please do not grieve and shed wild tears, and hug your sorrow to you through the years, but start out bravely with a gallant smile. And for my sake and in my name, live on and do all things the same. Feed not your loneliness on empty days, but fill each waking hour in useful ways. Reach out your hand in comfort and in cheer, and I in turn will comfort you and hold you near. And never, never be afraid to die, for I'm waiting for you up in the sky.
Gloria and Cheryl are going to offer the next two readings for us.
Mine is not a reading, mine is about David. And let's say our first encounter was quite different, because he thought he could out-talk me. He couldn't. So we had a long discussion about that and what I expected of him and what he expected of me. Anyway, under his thick interior, the man was kind as could be. He loved Heather, he loved everybody around her, including me. And I will never forget the day that my grandson was 10 years of age and he wanted a Wii for Christmas. So, of course, knowing Stephanie as she is, she left it till the 24th of December. So I'm in at the mall, and who did I run into but David? And you always spoke to David, because if you walked by him, whatever, everybody in the store would know. He'd be roaring your name, right? All right. So anyway, I told him what I was doing in there, and I said, oh, I'm in an awful predicament, David. My grandson wants this Wii. So he said, leave it with me, leave it with me. He says, give me 10 minutes. So the next thing I saw him going into the store. So he comes out, he says, it'll cost you $100 extra and a weekend in your cottage for nothing. Just what he said. And I said, if you can get me that Wii, I said, and he got it, and I will never, ever forget it. He made a 10-year-old grandson very, very happy. Now, he certainly wasn't a saint in my eyes, but I loved it to death. And God rest his soul.
Afterglow by Helen Marshall. I'd like the memory of me to be a happy one. I'd like to leave an afterglow of smiles when life is done. I'd like to leave an echo whispering softly down the ways of happy times and laughing times and bright and sunny days. I'd like the tears of those who grieve to dry before the sun of happy memories that I leave when life is done.
Another of David's favorite musical pieces, Forever Young by Rod Stewart. scripture passage that we chose together the other day was Ecclesiastes, and I'm sharing selected verses. For everything there is a season, a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to mourn and a time to dance, like that last song, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. God has made everything suitable for its time. Moreover, God has put a sense of past and future into our minds. I know there is nothing better for us than to be happy and to enjoy ourselves as long as we live. Moreover, it's God's gift that all should eat and drink and take pleasure in their toil. I know that whatever God does endures forever. Nothing can be added to it nor taken away from it. Amen. For our words of remembrance, my apologies if I make any mistakes, because I was so caught up in the storytelling with the family that I'd forget to take some of the details of the notes. So here goes. There are different seasons within the Christmas tree business. Sometimes you're planting. Another time you're pruning. In another season you're harvesting. There are months to be quiet and a time to speak up and advertise. There's a time to take out weeds and a time to put in fertilizer. The reading from Ecclesiastes points out that just as happens in nature, so it also happens in our lives. We go through different seasons, through different experiences. And just like the tree changes after pruning, when things happen in our lives, we are shaped and changed by them. Now, each person who has told the story of David knew a particular part or aspect of David. You've each had your different experiences with him at different seasons and stages of his life and yours. Now, it was interesting, the family sent me his resume, and on the resume it stated David had a wide and varied background and work experience. And it was really interesting listening to some of the stories shared. David trained at CFS Shelburne for 2 years, studying power engineering within the Air Force. As part of that program, trainees were divided into groups, and David was put in the short group. He was the shortest of the short ones, it appears. It was fine until the powers that be determined, because of his height and his particular skills and training, he would be perfect to work on submarines. David was not okay with confined spaces like a sub, so he told them no thank you and received an honorable discharge. Back on PEI, David worked quite a stint with Atlantic Oxygen. He worked with McKenna Express, and as Jamie mentioned, David loved to learn. He had an automotive certificate for small engine repair. In 90 to 92, he studied to be an LPN. For 11 years, he worked in that field at Hillsborough Hospital, Prince County Hospital, the QE, and in home care. Then came a season of pain for David. He had a car accident, and he was told never to carry more than 5 pounds, and the odds were very low for any successful surgical intervention. So he had to be very careful. Life became more limited. And it wasn't until several years later, on his 50th birthday, I'm told, he went for an interview with Don Matheson at Crooked Tree Farm, and he moved into a season of hope. The Christmas tree business became a new venture, one that brought new hope to his life. And in 2009, he added to his work repertoire He went on to work for Maritime Coffee and added that into all the mix. With family, David went through a season after he and Florence were separated, when the boys went out every Wednesday and every other weekend. But as they grew older, that tradition changed. When Mike came on the scene, the only words he heard from David for 2 years was, "Not likely." But that changed. A new season emerged when David connected with his daughter Julie, and when grandchildren came along, a new season of the Candyman unfolded. He loved his grandchildren and always had candy in his pockets. David's love of learning was not only work-related. I'm told he read all kinds of books and had a mind like a steel trap. If he had ever played trivia, he would have been awesome on a team, but he'd only go once or twice. And he was very exacting. If one of Heather's sisters would call and say, "Can I speak to Heather?" he would reply, "I don't know, can you?" And they'd say, "Well, is Heather there?" He'd say, "Yes," but he wouldn't hand over the phone. Instead, he'd say, "Ask the question you want the answer to. May I speak to Heather?" David could also be sarcastic and had what some would describe as a crusty, prickly exterior. He liked what he liked, and what he didn't like, he didn't like. For example, he did not like country music, line dancing, or the beach. And if someone offered him peas when he said he didn't want them, he was known to flick them off his plate onto the floor. David loved a variety of games, darts and archery, and as mentioned, golf. And when golfing, David was a supportive, helpful teacher. Interestingly, after his accident, because he swung the opposite way from his injury, he was able to keep up that passion. But then a new season of pain arrived with hip issues, and it limited his ability to get to some of his grandchildren's games and to play his beloved golf. In January, he had a hip replaced and had so many plans. But life shifted again as David passed into the season of death. But in the seasons of nature, we know that death is not an end. It's a new beginning of another season. Spring always follows winter. And Ecclesiastes reminds us that what God creates endures forever. And while we grieve, there will be times that our loved ones show up in our dreams, as one of the songs said. We'll still feel them close when you pull a candy out of a pocket and remember him. Or spend time amongst the trees. Or hear some of those Davidisms pop into your mind. Today we give thanks that David was an excellent grandfather, a rock, that he was willing to drive anyone when they needed it. He was ready to go on rescue missions. We appreciate his stubbornness, that he was protective and giving. For the many ways you each knew David through all the seasons of his life, we give our thanks. Let us find comfort again in music as we hear "Jealous of the Angels" by Jen Bostic. Into the freedom of the wind and the sunshine, we commend David's spirit. Into the dance of the stars and the planets, we release David. Into the cycle of living and dying and rising again, David takes his place. As we close this time together, you are all invited to a reception here at Central Queens following the service, and your presence and support is greatly appreciated. And here again, the words of blessing from Rod Stewart's Forever Young. May the good Lord be with you down every road you roam. May sunshine and happiness surround you when you're far from home. Be courageous and brave in your hearts. David will always stay, for we never love in vain. Our loved ones in our hearts remain. Thanks be to God. Our final selection is definitely one of David's favorite that he played over and over and over again. It's Amazing Grace by the 72 Royal Scots Dragoons. We'll remain seated for a few minutes to enjoy this piece.
Flower bearers, please. Flower bearers. Honorary pallbearers. Honorary pallbearers.
No, don't say that. No, don't say that. No, don't say that. No, don't say that. Please don't say that.